Hey friends, Cherie here. Welcome back to the channel, Gardening at Home with Cherie. Well, I'm going to start my second week of sharing what I'm harvesting and what I'm doing with the harvest as a part of the Every Bit Counts Challenge hosted by Jessica over at Three Rivers Homestead. And so, yeah, I'm going to be going through the garden, both gardens. I have a lot of food to harvest, y'all. This is going to be a big harvest day. But it also means that I get to preserve a lot. And so I think what I'm going to do in this video is just kind of quickly scan the areas that I'm going to be harvesting from and just kind of, yeah, at the end share what I'm getting. There's just so much food coming in right now. The Tabasco peppers are finally setting little fruit. Very exciting. But like I said, I have a lot of food growing in this space. I have a lot of food down in my main garden ready to harvest. These are those hot banana peppers. I let everything just get bigger. Now that I have more than I need to use in the meal coming in, you know, I'm being a little bit more patient with my harvest and letting things get bigger, letting more things ripen. And so, yeah, I'm going to go through, these are all cayenne peppers. I'm just going to be going through harvesting probably in segments, and I'll share the harvest as I'm doing it. Of course, I'm going to be searching for more beans because in last week's video, you saw that I clearly did not have enough beans to get very many pints preserved. And so while I have more beans growing, I'm probably going to just use most of the green beans that I harvest, and just every time I get enough to run 2 pints or so, I'm gonna get them preserved up. So I see some bell peppers in here big enough that are down low, because then all these fruit up here can grow in and get big. So yeah, like I said, it's gonna be a lot going on. There are a lot of hidden green beans that I've just left alone to let them grow, get bigger. And so it was hard going a few days not harvesting from them because we're really enjoying eating them fresh. But I do have purple beans that I'm not pressure canning, so we'll be eating those fresh now. I see those coming in, and I can start canning up the extra green beans. I do need to do a bunch of mint, bunch of different herbs this week as well. So, all right. Let me go get changed and get my harvest baskets. Okay, so I'm going to start off my harvest. And first I'm going to just go around and collect as many sweet banana peppers as I want, because I want to continue on preserving those. And so, yeah, I'll be probably pickling and freeze drying the sweet banana peppers, and then using them in a couple of canning recipes as well. Here are all the sweet banana peppers for today, and there's still dozens on all the various plants as well. So that'll be probably in a day or two, probably tomorrow or the next day. I'll check on them. I can harvest more for pickling, or I can start to use these for some of the recipes that I want to try. Okay, next I'm going to go around and find all the ripe tomatoes. I got big ones to harvest, lots of small ones to harvest as well. Next I'm going to get the cucumbers that I see. I'm going to have to look carefully so I don't miss any off. Okay, so far I got the sweet banana peppers, 4 different varieties of cucumbers. I just was pulling peas as I walked past them. 2 different varieties of tomatoes in here, an ox heart and a beefsteak. And then in here I have these paste tomatoes and then a bunch of cherry tomatoes. So I'm going to get this inside, and then I'm going to try to do more up here, and then go down to the garden, the main garden, and get as much as I can from down there. And I'll show you everything inside on the kitchen counter. All right, friends, so the next thing I'm going to do is actually get some more beans pressure canned. I only got to harvesting that Hillside garden yesterday. So I'm gonna go ahead and start some beans, and while they're running, I'll go out and harvest from the lower garden today. And then between those two harvests, I should have enough to start doing some of the canning projects that I want to do with the homegrown vegetables. I want to do some more kind of like soup and meal based canning in addition to the green beans. So these are orchid beans. I'm out of my orchid beans pressure canned, and I think 1 or 2 more varieties that I'm going to go ahead and get done today. So yeah, let's get started with these. You have a video that goes a little bit more in detail in how I pressure can my beans, what I use, etc. So I'm going to link to that in the description box, maybe even here in the iCards as well. So I'm thrilled to actually have found a lot of the Blauhilde beans hidden under this gorgeous fence wall that I planted of these beans. And they're more on the inside. I'm going to go get them. This is one of my absolute favorite beans to grow here in my Minnesota Zone 4 garden. This is the first time I've grown them in the Hillside. I succession planted them, so this is the first batch. Then I have another batch on the other side of the fencing. I usually grow them down in my main garden, and I was a little bit nervous that maybe they wouldn't get enough sun to grow well and be productive up here, but they seem to love this fence line as well. So I am thrilled. This is my first real harvest of them. I picked off like 2 or 3. You should have seen that in last week's video, but this is going to be a good amount for a meal. I'm going to go inside and collect the rest and continue harvesting the beans. You see here's the second succession. I'm just seeing the first blossoms on a few of these over here, but yeah, I love these beans so much. So these are Sonesta yellow wax beans. These are Derby bush beans. Those 2 there are purple tea peas. These are red swan beans. These are Kalima beans here. And I already said these are Derby and the Blauhilde. All right, the last of the beans I'm gonna harvest for today. Those are purple Celine beans. So I'm gonna get this bowl inside and be pressure canning, like I said, the green beans. And then I'm not sure exactly what I'm gonna probably leave some of them fresh, and maybe I'll pickle some of the colored beans. We'll see. And then I'm real quick gonna go ahead and grab any red ripened cayenne peppers that I see. We'll see if there are any srirachas. Then I'm also gonna get the hot banana peppers. Since I've already harvested the sweet ones, they'll be separated. All right, I got that food in the house. I'm gonna get these potato bags moved over to the area I'm gonna harvest them on. And I gotta pick up a couple more tomatoes I saw back in there that I missed. So yeah, let me do that real quick. All right, so I've pulled the pepper bags out. But this is one that was, no, this is the one where the animal came in and ate that. This over here is one that I had sitting out here. I can't remember why, but I pulled the one out. I could see some potatoes. This also has potato balls on it. So I'm going to collect and replant some of these balls just to see what happens. And then I'm just going to quickly go through and get out any potatoes that are in these remaining containers. Some have never been harvested, a few of them, and then a lot of them are ones that I shared earlier where I already harvested potatoes. I saw a bunch of new babies growing and decided to put those back into the soil to see if I would get bigger or more potatoes. But I need these grow bags for a couple more varieties that I want to start a 4th succession on, and so I'm going to harvest all of this. All right, so I got those there. All these little piles here. Well, this was a fresh harvest, and so was that one back there I showed. Actually, that one too. These are from, nope, that's a fresh harvest too. So those 4 were fresh harvests. These 4 here, these piles are from regrows. So I have this container to deal with, this one, and this one. And I'm going to deal with these tomorrow or the next day, at some point during this week. But then I will have harvested all the potatoes from my first sowing. And yeah, I have 3 more sowings to harvest from at some point. So I'm gonna get these inside on this tray. We're gonna get everything weighed, and then I'm gonna try to get down to the lower garden, but I may have run out of time. I'm gonna have to do that tomorrow also. Okay, friends, so I added, what is this, 2, 4, 6, 7 quart jars of the orca beans. Now I'm actually in the middle of setting up the pressure canner to can some chicken legs. And while I'm doing that, I'm gonna decide which recipes I'm gonna set up first to use the garden produce that we just harvested. So here's everything we got from the Hillside garden. And like I said, I'm gonna have the chicken legs going. I think I only have enough chicken for 3 quarts. So yeah, I ended up stuffing 5 chicken legs into each of the jars. So here's my last 5. So I'm gonna get that going. And then like I said, I'm gonna decide which recipes I'm gonna start to prep, because you know, you gotta have like the right weight, you gotta have all the ingredients ready. So I'll be getting that prepped while these chicken legs cook. Okay, so I'm gonna quickly get the weights on all the food that I harvested so I can get that into my garden journal. And then I'm gonna start creating, you know, piles, portions of things for the different recipes. And then I'll come back to talk to you about what I decided to do with all this produce. And then of course, I'll show you the results. So let me get on my scale. Okay, friends, and so here's what I harvested from the lower garden, the main garden. This is where I have most of my squash and the large tomatoes and eggplant, okra, tomatillas, you know, all the things that love heat and a lot of sun. I do have some pepper beds down there, strategically positioned, cucumbers strategically positioned, cherry tomatoes galore. Okay, so here it is all together. I'm gonna be combining this with the stuff from the Hillside garden, and I have some things that I harvested at the end of my last week of the Every Bit Counts challenge. I left those things as mostly tomatoes I left out to ripen. So I'm gonna be combining this now and cooking up some stuff, y'all. So yeah, let me get to work. Okay, so I got the green beans through a first wash. I'm gonna go ahead and cut off the 2 end tips and cut them down to the size I want them to be for jarring up. I'll get them cleaned up and packed in the jars. We'll see how many jars I can get. I hope 3. It's probably gonna be 2 again. We'll see. Well, unfortunately, that was just 2 jars again. So I definitely think I'm gonna go ahead and pick up a bushel of green beans from the local market that I get my eggs from, the local farm. And I'm gonna probably can those up a part of this week also, because I really do wanna make sure I have a lot of canned green beans, as it's my husband's favorite vegetable, probably me and my son's second or third favorite, especially to eat in the winter. So yeah, I ran out of them last year and I don't wanna do it. I don't wanna have that happen this year. So I'm gonna get these pressure canned. Like I said, I do have a lot more green beans growing. You just never know how much you're gonna get. I definitely from these plants get a sense for how many more, I know how many seeds I planted in those containers. And so now I know how many more seeds I will probably have to plant next year, or even if I do a fall round, which I'm thinking about doing in the greenhouse. So we'll see. But all right, I'm gonna get these canned and added to the log. I decided to whip up a quick, it's kind of like a bean salad. It was like a kind of a pickle, more of like a marinated bean salad. And we'll have this as our side dish for dinner tonight. But I'm just using up, you know, the rest of those beans that we harvested, some of the tomatoes, onions, bell peppers, just all the things from the garden are in here. I think the only thing not from the garden is I put some garlic in that I bought from the farm. I just wanted to show y'all I'm using my dining room table to kind of group things based on what I plan to do with the food. I did go to the market, to the farm rather, because I needed to get my weekly eggs, and they had okra. So I got okra. This is $3.50 worth of okra. It's going to be perfect for one of the dishes that I want to make. I am growing okra. I grow okra every year. That bag probably has more okra in it than I typically yield for like a bunch of plants. And this year something kept eating my okra. So it's growing now after being like bitten down to the ground several times. So I don't even know, how much I'm gonna get this year, but we'll see. And then I picked up garlic from the farm. As you can see here, I'm kind of putting it in the different places. These are potatoes that we have left. I pulled these out of the fridge because I'm gonna cook these up, these bauhilda beans today with those potatoes as a meal. And then I have some jars out too because I don't know if I'm gonna get to that this week or next week, but I plan on restocking my apothecary with the herbs that I use the most. So I just got those jars cleaned out. I have them all in smaller jars, but the ones I use a lot of, I just keep having to refill it. So I got some bigger jars for those specific herbs. And then that's all the tomatoes. I'm gonna run up now. Well, actually in a minute. I have a couple other things to do first, but there's a bunch more sweet banana peppers ripe in the green stalks. So I'm gonna grab everything that I can from there because the next thing I'm gonna work on after I deal with the beans is setting up some pickled banana peppers. And then I'm gonna do some pickled cucumbers. I might do them as refrigerated pickles or I'll water bath can them. We'll see how many, how much I get once I chop these up. And then of course, this is where we started. Pulled out some of my ginger because some of these things I'll probably be putting ginger in. I'll pull out some more spices and kind of group them. But the kitchen counter is filled with canning projects. Gotta leave the kitchen table free to eat. And so I'll be using the dining room table this week to help me stay on task and stay organized and make sure that none of this food goes to waste. I'm gonna eat this, I gotta put this over here. I'm gonna make a nice salad with this beefsteak tomato that has ripened. Look at that beauty. I'm back up here to grab as many sweet banana peppers as I can find to add to this batch of pickles. That I'm going to be doing. So that's green stalk number 1 with banana peppers, sweet banana peppers. This is green stalk number 2. This one sits in more sun and it has just been more productive. I mean, the amount of fruit that I've already gotten off of here and how it just keeps pumping them out is just thrilling to me. So the green stalks, these I set up as 4 tiers. So I have mints in the bottom of these, different varieties of mints that I propagated. So free mint plants. And then I have 1, 2, 3 tiers with 6 pockets each with the sweet banana peppers. So green stalk number 1 and green stalk number 2 are set up like that. And then this green stalk here is set up as a 5 tier and only the top tier has the sweet banana peppers. And I mean, the plants are just very, very happy and abundant. I also have sweet banana peppers in this green stalk, just 3 plants. These were the first ones that I planted. I planted them out early you know, as a test to see how they would do. And yeah, so I'm gonna get some off of those. I haven't done any fertilization of any of the gardens, anything growing in the garden, with the exception of, you know, when I set them up, putting in the slow release fertilizer and or my homegrown compost or whatever else, you know, I wanted to put in there. But it hasn't had any more fertilization, liquids, you know, compost, anything. And so that, after I harvest these, actually over the weekend, as I harvest things, containers, raised beds, green stalks, I'm gonna go ahead and fertilize them. And then this green stalk here has the hot banana peppers in it, but I'm not gonna harvest any of those just yet. I'm gonna get the sweet banana peppers pickling going first, and then I can always come back for the rest of the hot banana peppers. I'm gonna go ahead and grab these ripened cayenne peppers while I'm up here too, because I'm gonna start the freeze dryer, and I have a tray for the cayenne peppers. So let me get started. Okay, so here's what I got from that green stalk with the 3 plants inside the fencing and the cayenne peppers. Here's what I got out of the top tier of this green stalk. Okay, let's harvest from this green stalk that sits in a lot of shade. Here's what I got from this green stalk. And again, I mean, tomorrow there'll be more and more. Here those are. Finally, I'm gonna get everything that's ready from this green stalk. And I think I'll have enough to do a nice batch of sweet banana pickles. Or pickled sweet banana peppers. Grab some purple beans that I saw. All right, there's still a lot on there, and I got a lot. So again, as I've mentioned, the banana peppers, I can harvest something from these plants every day. Oopsie. So this was more than I thought was out here. Wow. So we'll see how many pints. So we'll see how many pints of pickled banana peppers I'm able to preserve using this and what I harvested the other day. Then this green stalk is all bell peppers, and I see some that I want to harvest. That little spider off of there. This was down very low on that plant, but I saw a big one over here. Look at all this growing in. Awesome, lots of flowers at the top. But the ones that are growing down low, once they get to a big enough size, I'm just harvesting those. Here, I'm gonna get this one. Let me put this down. I have to bring my shears over. I'm gonna get this one here. And then I'm gonna get this one here. Let me get my oh, no, it's coming. Hang on. I'm gonna bring my shears. And be careful not to destroy your plants. Trying to hard. There are another few like these. This here will become in a day or two. Along with that one. Let them get a little bit bigger. But again, every few days I can get 3 or 4 bell peppers this early in the season. I'm happy. That's one thing that I have struggled with here in Minnesota Zone 4. I'm so happy that these are doing better this year. All right, I'm gonna get inside and start getting the banana peppers ready for preserving, and then I'll pop back out here and grab, I saw a lot of ripened tomatoes, so I'm gonna get those as well. I still see a few peas, though I'm about to start some new pea seeds. But I'm just gonna come out, do, again, just a quick little harvest while the canner's going. All right, so here is everything inside. I'm gonna combine those sweet banana peppers with all of these that I harvested before. And first I'm gonna get these are called aprium, so it's a mix between an apricot and a plum. I'm going to simply water bath can these in a light syrup. So while that's running in the water bath canner, then I will be getting the sweet banana peppers, you know, cleaned and chopped, de-seeded, soaked, and ready for pickling. So I'll do this first and this next. Okay, so here are the 4 remaining jars of the canned fruit. I did 5, and then I let it cool down and immediately opened one up just to taste it, and it was delicious. My husband and I tasted it over some yogurt. So I definitely want to pick up more fruit and just, you know, get them preserved up in a simple light syrup. I think this will be a wonderful addition to the pantry. And I mean, just look at how beautiful they look. Okay, here are my 5 pint-sized jars of the pickled sweet banana peppers. They, I used my pickling spice blend, and I did add some turmeric in there. That was a tip that Jessica over at Three Rivers Homestead shared to keep them, you know, having a nice color. I probably should have added a little bit more, but they're fine. They look delicious, and I can't wait to crack open a jar of these to try. This is something that I've made before as refrigerator pickles typically. So I mean, I know I like them. We love to put these on tops of different kinds of salads, sometimes on top of pizza. So they'll be fun to have. And I definitely, with all the sweet banana peppers that those plants are pumping out, I will continue throughout the season to use some fresh, to use some, you know, cooking up in different meals. But I hope to get in probably, maybe it would be nice to have maybe a total of a dozen or 2 dozen of these pint-sized jars on the pantry shelf. So we'll see if I'm able to do that. And of course, I already have a bunch freeze-dried. And, you know, if I keep getting as much as I'm getting, hopefully I'll be able to run another freeze-dryer tray or 2 as well. So very thrilled with the yield of that and being able to put those up for the pantry. Here are my 4 pint-sized jars of canned green beans. These are green beans that I grew in my garden. So I'm thrilled for the first time to have some of those on the pantry shelf. Like I've been mentioning, I usually grow green beans for fresh eating, and then I might cook them up into a dish that I might freeze. I've pressure canned them as a part of the dish, but I usually don't pressure can just pints of green beans. I usually get a bushel or 2 at the farmer's market at the end of the season, and I bought some, you know, just already canned. And the pressure can ones they just beat them along with the carrots. And so I will just put in the effort to continue to pressure can as much as I can. Next, I'm going to show you the ones that I pressure canned from the bushel that I bought from my local farm. All right, so here are the green beans that I picked up from the farm when I got my eggs. And yeah, I'm gonna just start getting these cleaned and cut into chunks, and we're gonna see how many have pint. Well, I'm gonna do some quarts. I'm gonna do some quarts and some pints, and we'll see how much we get. Okay, so while those green beans are going, I'm going to get these tomatoes cleaned up and in the oven to roast. I also picked these up. It was $30 for this box, which was labeled a half a bushel. I think she said it was 30 pounds. Certainly cannot get homegrown, farm-grown, gorgeous tomatoes like this for 99 cents a pound in my local market. And I know for a fact I'm not growing enough paste tomatoes to put up, you know, even like half a year's supply, because most of my tomatoes that I grow are for fresh eating. I do have one bed dedicated to paste and cherry tomatoes that I planned for sauce. But even now, like, I've harvested a bunch, which you've seen in this earlier in this video, and I've already portioned those out for using them in some of the stews and soups that you'll be seeing later on in this video, because I tend to like a tomato base for my soups and stews, especially in winter. So the sheer amount of paste tomatoes that I would have to plant and harvest to really fulfill what we use in a year is a lot. And I'd really prefer to use my space to grow, again, stuff for fresh eating, like those heirloom tomatoes that I just cannot get. I'd rather just grow as many as I can and enjoy them fresh. And I do freeze some and use some of those for sauce, but it's not the same as the paste tomatoes. And so anyway, I'm gonna give this a whirl. I also figured this would give me a feeling for how many tomatoes I would have to harvest and how much, you know, how many jars of sauce that would give me, because I still don't have a feeling for that either. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I've made jars of sauce in the past. I've never made more than a dozen in a season from what I've harvested. And it, you know, I was using, you know, high water content tomatoes and really cooking them down. And it's like, what's the point in that, Sheree? So I'm going to give this a whirl and we'll see how it turns out. So what I'm going to do, get these all cleaned up, getting any blemishes cut away, you know, the little inner part here cut away, slice them, put some garlic, which I also got from the farm, on there, put a little bit of like salt and pepper, and just let them roast in the oven. And then, yeah, I'll move on to the next step. I'm thinking I'll probably puree and strain it and just put it into jars and water bath can it. I might freeze it. I'm not sure. But the most important thing right now is to get it in the oven. These are incredibly delicious, very beautiful tomatoes. Like, I'm super impressed. And I will definitely be heading back to the farm, maybe even tomorrow, to get more of these, because I'm going to make this sauce. And if it turns out half as good as I hope it does, I'm probably going to make more. And plus, there are other things that I want to make, which really do take a fair amount of paste tomatoes. And so, yeah, beautiful. I mean, look at these. And I had a couple that were like a little soft. And I decided to go ahead and just, you know, use those as ones to save seeds from, because, yeah, I'm gonna grow these next year and see. I mean, look at how big this is. Some of them are really nice and big and beefy, and you can see they have small seed cavities with not a lot of like moisture in them. They're very heavy tomatoes. So I just sprinkled some Redmond sea salt on these. I'm not even going to put any pepper on there right now. I will get these in the oven and then peel some garlic and then throw those in a little bit later. Yeah, and I'll be back to show you what my sauce looks like. Now I'm peeling some garlic. I had a small head, and then this is like a medium, and then this is like a medium largish head. So it's going to be a bunch of cloves. I'm just going to split them between the two trays and toss them into the oven with the tomatoes. All right, here are the tomatoes and the garlic. I'm going to get these through a food mill and get them in containers for the freezer. I think I'm going to, I was going to put fresh basil in when I cooked it, but I think I might go ahead and put some fresh basil through the food mill with it. All right, y'all, I changed my mind. I tasted these roasted peppers and the roasted garlic, and they are delicious. So I just put them into my Vitamix and blended them up. I'm gonna get some basil from the garden, throw that in. I added in already just a little splash of olive oil. And I think I'm gonna put these into some super cubes and have them frozen up, because it's so concentrated. It's just going to be like a nice concentrated soup block to pull out. I could, you know, thin this out into a really delicious tomato soup, or I can have it as like a nice soup base. Yeah, it's delicious. All right, so here's what I got. I'm gonna get the lids on and get these in the freezer. All right, so here's what I have left from the box. I'm going to get these cleaned up and just chopped up, and I'm gonna cook these down in a pot and make kind of a stovetop tomato sauce with these. All right, so I changed my mind about tonight's dinner. Actually, I'm gonna save that salad that we made earlier for lunch tomorrow, because these tomatoes, after roasting them, they were just so good. I said I'm gonna make something for dinner with them. So I just have some more of those tomatoes cut open, and then some of the garlic from the farm, and then I have onions and green peppers from my garden. Got it all seasoned up. Have it in my little braiser that I'm gonna pop into the oven and let it roast. And then probably, you know, 15 minutes before the dish is due to be complete, I'm gonna add in the protein and some green beans from the garden. So let me get this in the oven. I'll show you what it looks like, and then we'll finish up the dish together as well. All right, so I've pulled the dish out. I added in my Blau Hill the green beans and the fresh wild-caught cod. Hubby's bringing me some fresh herbs from the garden. Okay, so I added some beautiful fresh basil and oregano from the garden. Now I'm gonna put this in the oven without the lid on. Now you see I left the lid on because I didn't want the tomato juices to, you know, evaporate and dry out. But now I don't need any more liquid, so I'll let it cook the rest of the way without the lid on. All right, so here's the final bit of tomatoes that I have left from that half bushel. So we did the roasting the first time with garlic. It was absolutely delicious. And so I'm gonna go ahead and do that with the remainder. I used some for dinner last night. You should have seen that. Delicious. I'm definitely gonna be getting more of these tomatoes. You know, I've never really been that worried about putting up paste tomatoes, but I've thought of like 2 more things that I want to do with these to make it easier for me to capture that flavor. So I'm going to share that in the next video after I pick up more tomatoes. Well, let me get these in the oven, and all I'm going to do with these again is just simply slow oven roast them. I'm going to blend them up and store them in my freezer cubes. Okay, so I have quickly pureed up those cooled off tomatoes with just garlic, nothing else. I'm not adding any basil. Again, this is kind of just like a tomato soup pasta, like from scratch base that I'll be using. So these are 2 1-cup portions, and then these are tablespoon portions that I can, again, if I just want like a quick broth, and I can add one of these to it just to get some extra flavor in it. I can use it as just an extra seasoning or addition to other meals that I'm making, especially when I'm doing single serving things for myself, you know, at lunch. I usually eat lunch, you know, at home. And so, yeah, we'll get that in there. So we'll get these 2 in the freezer. We have the other 2 super cubes in the freezer. And probably in my wrap up video, I'll share like everything and how I'm going to be storing them. Okay, friends, so I'm going to wrap up this week's video by just showing you how I've grouped the harvest and what I'm making with it. And so I'm still working my way through the green beans that I bought. So while the pressure can is running, I'm going to be working through some things that are going to be cooked on the stovetop and or in the oven, and these are things that I'm going to actually be freezer meal prepping. And so yeah, this first one is going to be one of my favorite things to make, an eggplant ragu. I personally love this. I'll eat it over rice, And my husband especially, he's a pasta guy, so we can serve this over pasta. If you want to add protein to it later, you can certainly, saute up some ground beef, some beef chunks, some chicken, even some fish goes well with this, and add this as your, sauce. You can turn it into a soup. So I love these kind of ragouts and sauces that have a lot of flexibility when it's time for me to cook it. So this one is going to have a little bit more of a Italian kind of theme because I'm using Italian eggplants, the Black Beauty eggplant. I pulled that yellow squash that we harvested, green and yellow, and one has ripened to orange bell peppers, a bunch of the paste tomatoes that we harvested, beefsteak tomatoes, and I got to get some onions that we harvested. The only thing that's going to go in here that I did not grow myself in my garden is the garlic. I picked that up, as I mentioned already, from the farm when I got my eggs. I did save some of the seeds from the tomatoes that I got from the farm. Also, I'm going to put that aside. And then since these were some of the first tomatoes, and they're actually the only large tomatoes, I'm only growing one variety. No, I'm growing two. So yeah, I may not save seeds from these. I have so many tomato seeds. So, but I'm going to just get all this stuff chopped up, and it's going to get roasted. I'm going to put the eggplant on its own sheet pan because that's going to, have a different time of roasting. And then all the other stuff here, I'm going to let it roast a little bit longer together. And that's going to be kind of the tomato base for the ragu. Okay, so here is the eggplant ragu. As I said, this is a pan that I roasted the eggplant, peppers, some onions, and some garlic in separately because I did not leave that in the oven as long. This one stayed in a little bit longer. This has the tomatoes, which needed to cook down to release all its juices. And I have the zucchini in there, along with more onions and garlic. So what I'm going to do is, I might need to get a bigger pot, but I'm going to mix these now together. And I'm going to add 1 jar of pasta sauce. And then I'm going to portion them out into containers, let them cool off before they go into the freezer. All right, so I measured out 5 portions. These 4 here are slated for the freezer. These will be perfect to heat up for quick weeknight meals, weekend lunches, whenever. And then this one here is what my husband divvied out for himself. He wants to have some for lunch, and so I'm gonna cook up a serving of pasta to go with this, and I'll add a piece of the grilled chicken that we'll be having for our dinner tonight to complete his lunch. And then when it's time for me to serve these, again, I can toss these into a pot to warm up with, some added protein if I want. Again, I can add fish, I can add chicken, I can add beef, I can add lamb. I can keep it, meat-free, add some cheese to it. And again, I like to serve this kind of thing over rice or like a risotto if I'm keeping it with the Italian theme. Again, you can serve it over pasta. You can serve this with potatoes. I mean, you can do what you want to do with it. So it is so delicious. And I urge you, if you grow Black Beauty eggplant and you're looking for something that you can like batch. I wish I had more eggplant because I could have doubled or tripled this and just made more. But as soon as I get more eggplant ready, I'm gonna make another batch of this. It's really a satisfying dish to have when it's cold outside. All right, so we're gonna move on to our next dish, and I'm gonna be using these 4 Japanese eggplants that we harvested. I pulled some more of those intermediate day onions that I harvested, the zucchinis from the garden, and then this is store-bought ginger, garlic, and these shiitake mushrooms also from the farm. And then these are some of the tomatoes that we harvested. So I'm just gonna, again, get everything chopped up. And I'm just making, again, just kind of a sauce. I'm just making this up as I go. And, it's just a vegetable sauce. And it's something that, again, I can add a fish to, I can add chicken to, or have just a really nice, you know, vegetable-based meal because we will have the mushrooms in there. All right, so here it is. I'm going to get this. It smells so good. You can see how tender and meaty that eggplant is. So I'm going to let this cool down, and then I'm going to get it, you know, portioned up probably into 2 containers. And then when I go to reheat this, I can add like a chicken broth, you know, to make it a little bit more soupy if I wanted. I could just warm it up and serve it over rice. And I can leave it like this and just serve it as a side dish. So yeah, I'll do 2 to 3 portions, and then we'll get this containerized and it will go into the freezer. You know, I love bowl eating, so I could even see myself like steaming or roasting some sweet potato cubes or fries, or even doing like a mashed purple sweet potato and adding this into a bowl again with like a little piece of like fish or smoked fish, or just having it as a totally vegetarian meal. If I want to add some more sustenance, I could like saute some tatsoi greens or pak choi or something like that. So much you can do with this as just like the base of a meal. So I got 2 containers. This will be 1 lunch for me, like if I'm just having this maybe with a little bit of rice. But I can also stretch this into 2 complete dinners for us by adding protein, starch, and rice. So yeah. All right, so we're gonna move on to our 3rd preservation meal. I'm gonna be making the base for a taco style soup. So I'm gonna have everything that I want in it with the exception of the beans. And then that way when I go to make it, I can decide if I want to add black beans or red beans or a mixture of pinto beans. I can also add in, like if I want to add in corn or anything else that I get later in the season, I can easily mix that in as I'm warming up the soup. I haven't pressure canned my stock of black beans, red beans, nor pinto beans just yet anyway. So but yeah, I'll at least have this base done so I can use up some more of these intermediate day onions that I harvested. My first 2 poblano peppers, I just pulled them green. They were kind of low on the plant, and so I wanted to get them off. My store-bought garlic, and then these are all tomatoes that I grew. They're a mixture of small paste and cherry tomatoes. I'm going to use some of my tomato paste, whole peeled tomatoes, and diced tomatoes from the pantry. I also thawed out some of my ground beef from the freezer. And so I'm going to start by getting the onions, tomatoes, poblano peppers, and garlic chopped and in the oven to roast while I brown the 2 pounds of the ground beef. Okay, so I browned up the meat, got that seasoned real good. I added the whole tomatoes, the diced tomatoes, my homemade vegetable stock. This is what the roasted tomatoes look like. I'm going to slide those into the pot. But first I got to add the tomato paste. Here are the roasted garlic, onion, and poblano peppers. I'm going to slide those into the pot. Just let everything simmer. Add my taco season blend. And then once it's cooled down, I will just portion it out into the containers for the freezer. All right, so here's the taco soup base. I'm going to get this portioned out. And again, when I reheat them, I can add black beans or pinto beans or red beans, put some cheese on top, some fresh cilantro. I can put some fresh cilantro, some avocado, some more salsa, tomatoes, whatever I want. So again, I just made the base and then I can doctor it up as I please. I can add squash, I can add corn. Yeah. So again, I got 4 portions. And again, this is like a, it's not really concentrate, but it will be diluted so that each of these containers will have 2 servings by the time we add the beans and the rice and whatever else we want to add to it. And then this is the portion I'll leave out for my husband, who has requested to have a portion for lunch this week. So that'll just go in the fridge. For dinner tonight, I'm looking at just a quick little saute. I have onions, eggplant, and cherry tomatoes from the garden, some farm purchased garlic. And now I have these lamb, like really thin sliced lamb pieces that I picked up from the market that I'm just gonna add to the pan and get those browned up. And I think I'm gonna pick up I'm gonna pick up a quick little soy sauce base sauce. Well, here's the dish. It's actually really delicious. It's my first time making this, and I definitely will make this again. Okay, and then here are the quart-sized jars that I canned using the bushel of green beans that I got from the farm. So I have, I think 13, actually it's 15 quarts. And again, this is just what I pressure canned. Remember, you should have seen in the video, I did use some of the green beans in other ways. I think I showed it, I can't remember, but this was not the full bushel. I'm definitely gonna pick up, I put in a request for a bushel of green beans and a bushel of yellow beans from them, because I do want to make sure that I have a year's supply as close as I can get of green beans on the shelf. So yeah, thrilled with that. All right, and here are the pressure canned orca beans. Now we have already used 2 of these quart-sized jars because we ended up eating we ended up having 2 meals already with that taco soup. So I have to make more of that. I think I'm gonna do the pressure can version of it as well as more of the freezer version that I do. It was just so good, y'all. So we had it for dinner and lunch twice already. And I had 1 portion that made it into the freezer. So there's that. I told you, this is the hardest part when you're like pressure canning and cooking all this food. It's so hard not to eat it. You start with a taste and it's like so good and you haven't had it for a while. And so yeah, but I'm thrilled to have, let me count. So yes, I have 12 quarts left. I used up that whole bag of orca beans. And so I'm glad to have those used up. I bought those last year. I will reorder a fresh bag to have in the long-term storage pantry. And this just is so quick to put together these meals once the beans are cooked, because that often becomes the longest part of the process when I'm making things with beans. And you know, the one thing you don't want to do, which I have done a couple times, you know, you set them out to soak and then you forget about them. And then 2 days later, it's like, oh man, I can't use them anymore. Now, fortunately, I can use them as compost in my garden, but I really don't want to be wasting, especially these like really nice beans. These are really high quality specialty beans. And so I want to make sure that I am using all of them for meals and not for compost and fertilizer. So yeah, thrilled with that.